in the morning, once in the Thursday night.
He gets so mad because Coach Bradwell always like kick him out of lunch to go shoot.
All right, here we go.
Period 40 or
I don't know. Let's look at it and see. Let's do number 1 first. Write the equation of a sine curve. We have the amplitude is 6. The period's pi over 3. And phase shift and midline. All right, so let's jump in and put a 6 here. Would that be okay with everybody? And maybe put a +2 on the end there. Is that all right with everyone? Phase shift is negative pi over 7. That means we've shifted pi over 7 to the left. So this will have to be x plus pi over 7. Right? And then we need to figure out what that number is. We know our period is pi over 3. So 2 pi divided by that number is pi over 3. Does that make sense to everybody? So 6 pi equals b pi. So it looks like this number right here must be 6. Is that okay? All right, and then number 2, sketch 1 period. Now remember, when we do a sine regression on our calculator, this is the way the equation looks when it comes out. But if we're going to be graphing it, we need to get that 4 out of the parentheses. So what will be in the parentheses? If we pull the 4 out, it'll be theta minus pi over 4. Yep. Now why is that significant? Because that's how you know where to start your picture, right? Where your phase shift is. So remember that a normal cosine looks like that. Oh, it's negative. So it's going to look like this. That's a normal cosine, right? Negative. But instead of starting right here on the y-axis, we're going to start at pi over 4 and down 3. Midline is, sorry about that. Midline is 1. So I'm going to start 3 units down from 1. So I'm going to actually be down here at -2. Does that make sense to everybody? Because my midline's at 1. My amplitude's 3. So my point, my beginning point, is actually going to be right here. And then my curve is going to go up to 4 and come back down. And it's going to end at -2, just like it started at -2. Is that good? So now I got to figure out, where am I crossing my midline? Where am I ending, and where am I maxing? Would you agree with that? That's what I need to figure out. How do I do that? I gotta find my period. So 2 pi divided by 4 is my period. I'm just going to 2/4. What does that mean? Does that mean this is 2/4? No. That means here to here is 2/4. So this will be 3/4. And then right in the middle, which would be my maximum, what is in the middle of 1/4 and 3/4? 2/4 or 1/2. Might be easier for a minute to leave that 2/4 up there. Because now to find this point right here where I cross the midline, I need to find what's in the middle of 1/4 and 2/4. So 1/4 and 2/4 is 3/4. and half of that is 3/8. And similarly, 2/4 and 3/4 make 5/4, and half of that is 5/8. I think we talked about this, but maybe not. A really quick check to make sure, because you got some arithmetic going on here. If we make everything the same denominator, this would be 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. See how everything is evenly spaced? That's how it has to be. So if you just take a quick second, make sure everything's even, you're all good. Any question about that? All right, number 3. What's our period? Just a second, I always have to get my axes darker because I can never tell what's what. All right, so you said the period's 8, you think? What do the rest of you think? Enzo thinks the period's 8. I agree with Enzo. That's awesome. We love to agree with Enzo. So the period's 8. All right.
Mr. Mel behave.
Now, how are we going to find f of 19? Subtract 16. Why would we subtract 16? Because that's 2 periods, and we know it repeats every period. So if I get rid of 16, that would put me at f of 3. F of 3 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, negative 3. All right, how about f of negative 23? What are you going to do with that?
Could add 24.
Could add 24. That would work, right? We could add 24, which would put us at f of 1, and f of 1 is, it's kind of hard to tell, but it's about what? Negative 2.1 or something like that. That would be an approximation. It's not right on the line. F of negative 4. Okay, so what do we do first? F of negative 4. And what is f of negative 4? 1, 2, 3. Is that 0? Everybody get 0? And then we have to take that. Remember, we're doing f of negative 4. So this is 0, so now we're doing f of 0, so the answer to the problem is negative 2. Perfect. On what interval is sine theta increasing and concave down? All right, so I didn't draw it for you. You have no picture. You have to know. What does a sine look like? Just the regular old sine. Regular old sine. There it is, the regular sine. And I need it to be increasing and concave down. So where does that happen? 0 to pi over 2. Very, very good. 0 to pi over 2. So in other words, in terms of quadrants, that's quadrant 1. Did you notice that every quadrant there's different behavior? So for example, quadrant 2, pi over 2 pi is decreasing and concave down. Quadrant 3 is decreasing and concave up, and quadrant 4 is increasing and concave up. All right, now you've got a picture. All right, let's take a second, you and your partner, see if you can write an equation for number 5. Can you write an equation for number 5?
equation, same thing. When I hold, I'm left-hand batter, so the knob of the bat is right here when I swing. For some reason, the knob like digs into my. I think I
You guys got it? Anybody got it? An equation for number 5, f of theta equals what? 20 sine 2.
Plus 10.
No phase shift?
No.
How's come there's no phase shift?
The origin starts.
Starting on the midline. Yep, it's starting on the midline, which is exactly where it should be starting, right at 0, right on the y-axis. Its origin's been moved up. That is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anybody have a question about that? That's what I got. Is that good with everyone? Alrighty. Find the frequency of this function. Number 6, find the frequency. What do we know about frequency? Reciprocal of period. And how do we find period for a sine curve? 2 pi, in this case, divided by 2. Right, the coefficient of theta. So if the period is pi, then the frequency would be 1 over pi. Everybody okay? All of a sudden you got very quiet. All right, number 7, got a table of values. You're told that the period is 6. So this is just like the one we did a minute ago, but we had a picture. Now all we have is a table of values. So, what do you think about f of 39? Won't it be the same as f of 3? Because we can subtract 36. So that's 4. F of 39 is 4. What about negative 8?
Four,
0? Because isn't negative 8 gonna be the same? I could add 12 to that and get f of 4, which is 0. So the idea here is you're gonna be adding and subtracting 6's until you have a number that's in your table. All right, you good on that, everyone? Okay, let's take a little bit of time here and let's do all these evaluates. So these are your unit circle problems. See if you can do them without the unit circle. Problem number 8. We're doing all of these without, I mean, we're using our unit circle, but not with it in front of us. Yeah, we're trying to pretend. So if you need to draw it over to the side, that's fine. I would usually draw quadrant 1 over on the side to help me out. let's have some volunteers as you get these. Come on up and put your answers up here for us so we can double check. Thank you. Do you have them all done? Go ahead and put down what you got done. Right, you can finish, he's gonna put what he's got. Or no, Fred's got some. We'll do the same thing.
We're doing none.
Right now, we're doing 8. We're putting 8.
We're gonna do that.
I don't think so, I think we'll just talk about it, but 10 we will definitely put 8 to something.
Expects Dexter to do all this. It's just all this stuff.
Oh, I just like a line gel. I got
Oh,
one
man,
that's
you're-
like a shell. It'd be forever to get it out.
Is it 19 times 6? 114?
Yeah.
114.
All right, let's see what we came up with. Here were 2, here were 2.
So cosine of negative 5/6 is really just 1/5/6.
I am gonna disagree with 2 of them up there. Does anybody else disagree with any of them? Ben?
Wait, these guys are negative.
What did you say, Ben?
D is supposed to be a
D
negative.
is supposed to be negative, yes. So,
Another-
okay, so
another one.
why is D negative? Because isn't it in quadrant 3? And in quadrant 3, y is negative and sine is y. All right? Well, I still disagree with 2.
Well, that one was undefined.
I agreed with that. The tangent of 3 pi over 2 is undefined because 3 pi over 2 is down here. And why is the tangent undefined? Because tangent is y over x. So that one was right when it was undefined. That one was right. Uh-oh, here comes Mr. Pack.
Of course. No, it's negative 1/2.
Okay, Enzo,
Sit down.
nobody makes fun of you. Stop it.
He makes fun of me. Like,
Well, you know what?
I make fun of him. I developed his character.
All right, no, I don't think it's 0, but I don't think the answer that was up there was right either. So what was your thought process? Olivia, are you waving your hand around back there? I thought I saw your hand go up.
Well, I think I know the answer to that.
What do you think the
I
answer
think
is?
it's negative 1/2.
Okay, why do you think it's negative 1/2?
Because you have to take out 2 periods, not 1, so it'd be 7 pi over 6.
Yeah, so what she's talking about is, if you think of 115 divided by 6, I literally did the division on my paper, and I got 19 and 1/6. That's what I got when I divided pi. Now, that is a lot of pies. That's woo, 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 woo. So what I'm gonna do is take out all of that extra spinning. But remember, a spin, a revolution, is 2 pies. So you can't take out 19. You can only take out 18. And because that's 9 spins. When you take out 18, you're gonna reduce this to 1 6 pi, which is 7 pi over 6. which is going to be your pi over 6 angle, but it's down here in quadrant 3, so it's negative 1/2. Yeah, so that's negative 1/2. Oh, and I'm not exactly sure what you were thinking there. Okay, because remember, if it's going to be 0, it has to be quadrantal. It has to be one of these if it's 0.
So are you really just dividing 115 by 12?
You could do that, yeah. All right, okay, next problem. How many degrees is 22 pi over 5 radians? Well, I hope you're not making this complicated. How many degrees is pi radians? 180? So don't we have 22 fifths, 180s? So I did the math and got 792, but I don't know if I did that correctly or not. 792 degrees. What is 22 times 180 divided by 36? I did 36, or 180 divided by 5. 180 divided by 5 is 36. So I just did 22 times 36. Pi is 180. So you have 22 180s divided by 5. All right, number 10. Be careful on these. Let's do the first one together just to make sure, and then I'm going to have people come up and do, I probably should erase that. I'm going to have people come up and put their answers on the board. But this is a little bit different because you're going to have more than one answer to almost all of these. So we're going 0 to 2 pi. And we want to know all of the angles that have a sine of 1/2. Well, first of all, what is the base angle in quadrant 1? Pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3. What's the base angle that has a sine of 1/2? Pi over 6. If the sine is going to be positive, don't you need a pi over 6 in quadrant 1 and in quadrant 2? Isn't that where sine will be positive? You don't want to be down here because sine is negative down here. So what are your answers? 2 of them. Pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. All right, so that's how you're going to approach these. I haven't done it yet. It's possible, if the angles are quadrantal, it's possible there'll only be one answer, but almost all these, maybe all of them, are going to have 2. Oh, I can see one right now that only has 1. All right, so I'll get the space prepared, and then when you are ready, Kellen, you're going to do a couple of them, right? And I already did A.
Yeah.
All right, we're ready for it.
Do the TikTok this morning. I swear to
Cool,
God.
honey, pay attention, get busy. Let's get them done.
All of them are just.
Oh, what you have them? You got half of them done?
I have all of them.
Well, I don't care, you already go sticky there.
You ain't going to cop. You know, you should be like that one YouTube guy. Really camps out those videos. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, boys, focus. conversation out there. How are we coming? We doing okay? I disagree with one. And I mean, I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
That's what I got.
This is exactly what you got.
On A.
Well, no, A, yeah. We did A together, yeah. No, I'm on one of these 8 problems, I disagree. Declan?
D.
Yeah, I'm more worried about D.
Whoever did D step forward.
And here is what worries me about D. Which quadrant is 11 pi over 6 in? The fourth. And what do I know about X in quadrant 4? It's positive. And I need X cosine to be negative. So I think, should this be 5 pi? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We'll get to it in a second. All right, so I want to make sure everybody's good on these. These are really more unit circle problems. Would you agree with me? We're just doing it kind of backwards of what we did before. So if you have an understanding of your unit circle, these shouldn't be too bad. Do remember though, if you're going all the way around the unit circle, 0 to 2 pi, you might have more than one answer. Okay, how are we? Are we all set there? Boys and girls? Good? All right, let's look at number 11. What is going on in number 11? All right, let's look at the original. We've got a, just gonna draw a circle here. We have a sine value that's positive and a cosine value that's negative. So would you agree that my point, my angle theta, is over here in quadrant 2? Does that make sense to you that I placed that angle in quadrant 2? Okay. Now, problem A says, take that point and add pi to it. That's what it says, theta plus pi. What does that do? If you add pi to an angle, what does it do? Takes you halfway around? So instead of being in quadrant 2, I would now be in quadrant 4. And the point in quadrant 4 would be positive 0.91, negative 0.3. Would you agree with that? So what do I want to know? I want to know sine. So the sine will be negative 0.3. What about theta plus 2 pi? What does that do? Nothing, right? We're right back in the same spot. So the cosine of theta plus 2 pi will be negative 0.91, just like the original point. Cosine is x. How about negative theta? What's going to happen with negative theta? Now remember, this is positive theta. So won't negative theta be here? remember, negative means same distance but opposite direction. So this is negative 0.91, negative 0.3. And I want sine, so the sine will be negative 0.3. Don't make this hard. It's all about what quadrant are you in? What quadrant, that's all. Cosine negative theta. Well, cosine negative theta will be negative 0.91. How about tangent theta? So we're going back to the original angle. What will tangent theta be? 0.3 divided by negative 0.91? Whatever that is. Negative 0.330, basically, negative 0.330. And then tangent of theta plus pi. Well, didn't we say theta plus pi would be right here? So won't that be negative 0.3 over 0.91, which is the same as the whatever the answer is, I just got to say it. All right, Kellen, does that make sense to you now?
Yep.
Everybody okay with that? All right, number 12, which are coterminals? There can be more than one answer. How do we tell? How do we tell if things are coterminal, or how do we find coterminal things? We add a revolution. So in this case, we would be adding or subtracting 14/7. Too high? All right, so which ones are coterminal? Might be more than one answer though, so. I think there's two answers.
Why did she give you like 40 smarts?
Excuse me? You would have gotten Smarties, but, oh wait, what? You
Not
didn't
for
work.
them? Oh, I guess I don't get them. I'm not good enough.
You're not a smarty.
All right, I got B and D, how about you? Now, I went ahead and checked A, here's how I, or not A, C, here's how I checked C. I said 79/7 would be the original 2 sevens plus 77 more. But 77/7 is an odd pi. Odd pies don't make coterminal, only even pies do, right? 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi. So I knew it couldn't be C. That's how I ruled out C. That was my thought process. Didn't have to be yours, but that was my thought process. All right, number 13, sketch it. Next time I see you, which is what, tomorrow, you will be sketching something for me. So let's practice this.
I'm like 99% sure. It's discussed on the day that I was here.
Okay, got a positive sine curve. Vertical shift is 1, so we have a midline of 1, right? Amplitude of 2, so my maximum's gonna happen at 3, and my minimum's gonna happen at -1. Does that make sense to everybody? I know my phase shift or horizontal shift is -pi/3, and I know my period is 4 pi, which I went ahead and thought of as 12/3. So I'm starting at -1, my period is 12, so I drew it out to 11/3. And I tried to make it somewhat like spaced right. -1 and 11 makes 10, half of 10 is 5. So there's my midline crossing right there. And then -1 and 5 is 4, and half of that's 2, that's my maximum. And 5 and 11 is 16, half of that's 8, and that's my minimum. How does that look to everybody? So that's a sign. Earlier, one of the earlier questions, we graphed a cosine. All right, we're good. All right, number 14. Minimum, maximum, find the period, amplitude, frequency, and midline of the curve. All right, so I don't know, I got a sine curve, pi/4, -1, and pi/2, 3. So this is a minimum, that's a maximum. So I want period, amplitude, frequency, midline. All right, well, what can you tell me from what you've been given there? A minimum down here at -1 and a maximum up there at 3 means my midline must be at 1. Does that make sense? Which makes my amplitude 2. Now, how far is it from pi/4 to pi/2? Pi/4. And remember, pi/4, that is minimum to maximum, is half the period. So if pi/4 is that distance, then your period must be pi/2. If this is a fourth, then the whole period would be a half. Does that make sense to everybody? And if the period is pi/2, then the frequency is 2/pi. All right, are you okay with that? Just for fun, let's go ahead and write our equation. Let's go ahead and write our equation. So our amplitude is 2. Our period was pi/2, so will this have to be a 4? Because 2 pi/4. And I am going to start my curve right here. Don't sines start on the midline. So I'm going to start it right there, and what would that be? If this is 1/4, and this is 1/2, what would be right here in the middle there? Three-eighths? Everything's equally spaced. So your midline crossing point, your 0, is going to be halfway in between your max and min. All right, go ahead, let's get 15 in our calculators.
What kind of regression do we use?
You only have it, you only trigonometric regression assigned.
But it doesn't give us the iterations of.
Yeah, so just go, I think the default iterations is 3, and the period, what happens if you don't put anything in?
It gives us, I mean, a random number.
I think, let's just go with that. Go with that. If you don't know, just leave it on the default, and if the default's blank, leave it blank.
Should we, what should the iteration be?
Just leave it as the default. I think the default's 3.
Actually, my big dog would bark.
Most of the problems we do like this are like months, and so periods usually 12,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Look at Jackie now.
I don't know what time.
No.
Oh, are you typing this in on your calculator?
Yeah.
Why are you lying to me?
As of, we were right about 7 minutes. About my calculator.
Oh, you never got that come back?
Nope.
Flip the coin.
Infraction.
Never be nice to me.
Smells like infraction and equal.
Okay, now, let's talk about, tell me what you got for your equation first of all. Y equals what?
Let's go ahead and
What
ask
was your
Jim
A?
Gates.
A was 3.11721.
All right, yeah, we'll just go with that. Sine, okay, what was your B?
0.5557.
I mean in thousands, but yeah. And then what was your C?
0.959.
Good. And then your vertical shift out here, your 1.
8.108.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, note the question. All right, the question is find the minimum value. All right, you can do that without graphing. It's a sine curve. Tell me about the minimum. Here's the midline. What do you know about the minimum? It's going to be 1 amplitude below. So if you know your midline is at 8 point something and your amplitude is 3, isn't your minimum going to be like 5, whatever that is, whatever 8.108 minus 3.117 is? Won't that be your minimum? Is that okay with everybody? And the maximum would be the same thing, only instead of subtracting, you would add. Now, notice, this happens, remember I cautioned you, this 5 point, if I were to graph this by hand, that number right there would have to be factored out. But does that number have anything to do with what the question was asking? No. Vertical, anything vertical, max and min, has to do with midline and amplitude. Anything horizontal has to do with period and phase shift. Right? So I don't care whether that's factored out or not. All right, turn the page. We will do this one tomorrow after we take our little graphing quiz.
You like that song, Miss Ford?
What?
Turn the page.
I am thinking we'll have another review day.
Yeah.